Hello and welcome to the EchoChamber podcast. My name is Tony Groves and today we're talking to the algorithm because it's always listening. As always, I'm joined by my co-host and the man who doesn't use anything but the Tor browser, Martin Shady Deals McMahon.
We'll all be on tour soon. All of us will be on tour.
But much more importantly, we're delighted to be joined in the Tortoise Shack by journalist and tech correspondent and the host of Tech Talk, News Talks, Jess Kelly. Jess, thank you for coming on to the podcast.
Thank you for inviting me.
No, it was really it was one of those where I think I said to you when I was trying to outline what I wanted to talk about, it was itching at me for a while, the old phrase that you had to eat your vegetables when you couldn't get up from your plate until you've eaten your vegetables. And I thought about that in terms of technology. And when I say about the algorithm, I mean it's the technology's run so far ahead that we don't even realise that we are being fed just the meat that we want and we don't have to eat our vegetables anymore.
Yeah, but the thing about the algorithms, the way these algorithms work, when Facebook is the easiest example to use, right? So when you sign up to a Facebook account, you put in your name, your date of birth, where you live, it'll ask you what movies you've seen, what your interests are, and it builds up a profile based on information that you've input. Then, and the interesting / dangerous part is that it also then tracks your behaviours. So who you interact with, who you Facebook stalk, who you've muted, what ads you click on, every single thing you do, how much time you spend on the app versus the web browser, all of that information is captured, stored, run through an algorithm, and then you get your Facebook wall. So things like the ads that you see are based upon your own behaviour. So if you get an ad and you're like, what is this madness? It's based on your own madness. It's based on what it thinks you want to see. And what's really interesting and kind of scary, and I've been thinking about it a lot since the Zuckerberg Cambridge Analytica appearance before the US Senate, they said that they are going to be more conscious about what they put out there and give us more control. But we're still only seeing what Zuckerberg and his staff want us to see. You know what I mean?
Oh yeah, even at that level, they just that sentence alone is an admission that they created.
Yeah, and they do. And we're still no closer to having legislation or when it comes to social media. So the only thing that Facebook is answerable to at this moment in time is their own community standards. So Facebook write these community standards. And if they wanted to ban the word cabbage from the platform tomorrow, they can do that. And we would never hear the word cabbage on Facebook, Instagram, any of their platforms. That's that. And it kind of irks me slightly that we're still letting this spin, because I guarantee you in 5 years' time, I'm going to be back on News Talk going, why didn't we do anything back in 2018 when we first became aware of the severity of the problem? We've known it's a problem for a while now. This year has been the wake-up call. And it was in January before the Cambridge Analytica, I just kind of got the sense that people were turning off the social media thing. It's not as attractive a proposition anymore to be able to talk to your friends at any time of the day or night, or see what's going on, or get news articles shoved down your throat. Like, the novelty is worn off. We know that you can do that. That's deadly. If I'm bored out of my tree on a train station platform waiting for a train, I might go on for 20 minutes. But am I going to do it Monday to Friday, like every single second of the day? No. So I think there is a bit of a rollback going on.
And there was, I read yesterday that millennials, particularly millennials, have switched off Facebook in the US to a massive degree, that 40% of them have deleted the app.
Firstly, I hate the word millennials because it's such a big spectrum of people. So you're basically saying anyone under 50 has switched off Facebook. Like, let's just call a spade a spade. It's a horrible term that's overused, and I think we give the millennials an awful hard time. And I'm not saying that as a snowflake millennial before anyone jumps down my bleeding throat.
Don't at me.
I'm not. I'm just saying, like, you can't, if you look it up, some people will say it's like 1985 to whatever is millennial. But then other people will say, well, actually it's 1980 to whatever. So,
well, this piece I read gave it that under 25 was what they were talking about for millennials.
Okay, well that's...
Well, I think I had an old trope was, give a man a fish and he'll eat for a day, and then but teach him how to fish and he might get an unpaid internship with big fish, but he won't be able to afford Dublin rents with that, and he'll sleep under op-ed pages that say that millennial snowflakes have it too easy.
Yeah,
because that's the truth. There is no this. yes, there is a generation that are more politically aware, and I think what's happening now is people are saying, oh, we'll put that down to and we'll call it snowflakery. Well, no, it's not really. They just see that the ladder was pulled up over the last decade and that it's, there's an imbalance there economically.
I'm all for whether you want to call it young people.
Yeah, young people are switching away from Facebook. That's a fact.
Yeah.
And what, again, kind of has my backup at the moment, not my backup, but just I'm kind of conscious of, is that the younger people, even younger than me, are using new apps and new communication tools that we as adults don't even know exist. And we're only going to find out about them when something bad happens, when someone abuses a platform and a child is bullied within an inch of their lives or worse. That's when it'll get our attention. And so I don't think that's good enough. I think we need to be pressing ahead and demanding legislation so that these new apps and the new bits and pieces that come out have to meet a certain safety criteria and can be policed, not to quash free speech, but just to protect people, particularly that younger demographic, so under 25s. Like, I'm 29, and if someone says something mean to me online, as much as I hate to admit it, it does get under my skin. Like, it does, and I don't think you can kind of just shake that off going, oh, you're a delicate little sunflower. No, I'm a human being. Like, and I think that's true for people regardless of their age. Like, it's not nice to have someone say something mean about you.
No, I agree, but coming back to the what can be done in terms of legislation, I think you probably well aware that before just after Leo Varadkar had assumed the leadership of Fine Gael and before he'd become Taoiseach, he'd spoken about a digital safety commissioner. And then he went and met Mark Zuckerberg, and coincidentally 3 weeks later he dropped the whole idea. Now, the timing of that wasn't really great, but the optics of that wasn't really great. But the idea of a digital safety commissioner without proper legislation and enforcement, because in Ireland we do actually have laws that we can do, and we can, because some of them are here. Like, we've spoken to Simon McGarr and people like that about some of the things that were going on here about data that was being transferred, virtually the European data filtered through Ireland.
Yeah. And
we were kind of just saying, well, it's okay. But the Data Protection Commissioner, those laws do exist right now. And but taking it broader, I know what you mean in terms of digital safety.
Yeah, like, data protection is one thing, right? Yeah. But there was an example given I went to the government's launch of their online safety strategy, and it's the first time all of the departments have come together to publish one document. It's in a beautiful book, it's published beautifully, and the language used in it is perfect. But, can it hold water? Do you know what I mean? Like, and I think digital safety commissioner is one thing. Absolutely, we could do with that. But again, they have to have proper powers to enforce things. And I don't think it's okay for Facebook to only be answerable to Facebook's community standards. And that goes for all the other social media platforms as well. I'm just using Facebook because they're the biggest one. They're the ones that everybody would know about. I don't think it's okay for us as a country to allow certain things that if I said something in this room right now, that could end my career. But if I say it on Facebook, it can stay up because it's not in breach of their standards. You know what I mean?
I think that's...
Broadcasting, as someone who works in radio, we are so tightly regulated with the BAI, and we have different codes of conduct and, what's distasteful and harmful and all this kind of stuff. And yet it's kind of a case of anything goes online unless Facebook deem it to be inappropriate. And
that's another point where actually I think I saw it with Blind Boy made the point that he had something like, say, it was 400,000 connections or whatever it is on Facebook. My God, I'm terrible. I'm not on Facebook.
Friends.
I'm not on Facebook at all. But he said that but if he wanted them to see his podcast things, Facebook were more or less looking for him to pay for promoted posts now. So they can, and I think Simon McGarr referred to it last year to us as cutting off the fingers, their thumbs, because they, as you said, if they wanted to ban the word cabbage, they can.
Yeah. So
they can literally say to you, even though you've got 400,000 people that you're linked to, we don't have to share them. They don't get to see all your posts.
No.
And it's an unusual situation whereby they want to monetize your success.
But it's still a business, and I mean,
absolutely.
That's going to be the way it is. Do you know what I mean? And I don't have an issue with them making money. I just have an issue with, I do worry about people under 30 basically who are losing their social skills because they're interacting with Facebook and they think they have this broad view of the world because they read a New York Times article, they click through from Facebook to a New York Times article and they think suddenly they're well informed. Whereas you're not getting the full picture if you're only clicking through things that appear on your Facebook wall, because it is the echo chamber. And I don't want to, like, I love social media and I don't want to be saying it's a bad thing. Like, technology's given me my voice and it's given me the confidence to do different things in my life, which is amazing. I think we need to be wary of it though. And I think, you know, Charlie Brooker, I don't know if you ever watched Charlie Brooker's I think it was the 2016 or 2017 wipe. I think it was 2016 wipe. And he just explained the whole social media thing in the most beautiful way. I'd encourage you, it's on YouTube, you can go and watch it. But it did kind of make me wake up a little bit more going, shit, like, you have to be very aware of what's being put before you, because it is being put before you. We don't have to go and seek things anymore. Yeah. It comes to us. And that's one thing that I was very aware of during the referendum on the 8th Amendment. You know, I follow people who I'm interested in and who, for the most part, are quite like-minded. Yeah. But that's not the full picture. No. So you have to go digging. We're almost too spoilt now, and that stuff comes to us. We don't have to go digging, and I don't like that. And I saw an interesting one when you talk about that. They said 45% of people in a recent survey in the US get their news from Facebook as their primary source. Yeah. So if that's your primary source, and that is only given you, as I referred to earlier, just the meat. You don't have to eat the vegetables anymore. You don't, you know, I get into the odd Twitter spat with people who'd be ideologically opposed to me, and I tend to hit follow just to say, and then they always say, why do they follow me for? I said, well, it's good to step outside my echo chamber. And I find it very funny, because then I just kind of think to myself going, tend to just get into another row 3 months down the line. But nonetheless, I do try. But that's only because it's a conscious behaviour that if someone has taken me up to be the opposite of them, I go, oh, that's interesting. Yeah, but like, I think it's the same in real life as well. I think if you only ever meet people who are like you, your world's going to be so boring and so dull. And that's why I love my job, because I get to travel, whether it's around the country or around the world, and meet new and interesting people. And not every person that I meet I get on with and I would want to follow on social media, or I would want to be best friends with. But I love still learning the fact that the world is not just my little hub in Dublin 18 where I live and my little hub in Dublin 2 where I work. There's a big bad world out there all around it. And I think social media it's a dodgy thing. If you are living your life through a monitor or behind a keyboard, I think it's a very, very dangerous thing. But if you use it in a positive way, which people like Sinead Burke are doing to raise awareness for things, or even just to put another point of view out there, then that's class. Well, I often wonder, how is and blatantly alt-right stuff, how is it just allowed to survive online? How is it allowed to survive online? This stuff is awful stuff. I mean, I'm not even going to name the accounts. You know the accounts I'm talking about. These things are prolific. They're everywhere. And particularly kids, YouTube is one place where I see lots of them. And kids have been inadvertently led into this minefield and being flogged this picture of the world. That's very one-sided. Because the notion of free speech is out there. And so the big thing, so there are a few different, points that make it very hard to legislate the internet. So Leo Varadkar has said a few times that, it's the World Wide Web. So by its very nature, it's a global thing. So you can't have a set of laws just for Ireland. It almost needs to either be a European-wide thing, or it's harder when it gets worldwide. Yeah. So that's one point. Also, then you've got the notion of free speech. So, you may not agree, or you may find something incredibly offensive and utterly appalling, but then that could be another person's outlook on life. And so deeply held beliefs. Yeah, but this is what it comes back to, and that's the point that I was trying to make at the beginning, and that, you have to still be able to put your view out there, but at what stage, like, who gets to decide what's offensive? Because you have people who are calling, anyone under 40 a little snowflake and desperately sensitive. And then you've got the older generation who are seen to be a bit more hardy, but even kind of raise an eyebrow at certain things. So which group gets to decide? Is it the group that naturally grew up on the internet and have a better understanding of the technology, understanding of the medium, or is it the older, more sensible people? Or, where's the bit in the middle? I want the world to be a Venn diagram, and I want to live in the bit in the middle. Well, I suppose for lots of political reasons, having all that data on people is useful. It is useful. You can predict
you can influence what way people are going to go. The more you know about them, the more you can predict. So I don't think there's any real impetus to solve or rectify the way it's going at the moment. And also, I think it's also really, really sad that all this data that is collected is for one purpose and one purpose only, and it's to sell you shit you don't need.
I don't think that's true. I don't think the only reason data is collected is to sell you shit. I don't agree with that. Like, I think there are a number of benefits from data collection. Now, again, don't jump down my throat. I'm not a Big Brother fan. I'm not saying that we should all be monitored and all the rest. But in the last number of months alone, I have seen the benefits of data collection. You know, the HSE are rolling out e-health records for patients who have things like, you know, chronic kidney disease and people who are going on dialysis. And by having small, data pools of the different patients, of when they come in for dialysis, all of this information that comes in, there's an element of automation there. There's, you know, feedback between the machines and the patient, so the patient is more informed. That's an example. What the HSE are doing with data is a really good example of how data collection and collation and automation to a certain extent can be very beneficial, because the patients that I met in a dialysis clinic in Galway were saying that they are now more in control of their own health. They get to access their medical files. So if somebody is living in Galway, goes on dialysis 3 times a week, but wants to come to Dublin for the weekend, and they end up in hospital, they now have an e-health record rather than having to carry a bundle of papers around. So they're in more control, and they can have a better, you know, quality of life, I suppose, because of it. Where data collection, collation, and the pushing of ads and all the rest is bad is when we go blindly into things like Facebook. I mean, so many of us signed up to Facebook not giving a shit about the terms and conditions. And you still see it today. You know what, in a few hours' time, I'm going on Lunchtime Live to talk about, are our phones listening to us? And people don't realise, I said it in the meeting this morning, people don't realise that when you download Facebook Messenger in particular, you have to consent to your mic being accessible, your pictures, your contacts, all of this stuff. So every phone call my phone, which is sitting behind me, has ever received is logged within Facebook Messenger. And if you download your Facebook file, all of that content is there. You know what I mean? Like, we've given all of this away. And I think now we're only realising that it has implications, because 10 years ago, we just wanted the new shiny thing. We wanted the access to the technology. But I don't think it's fair to say that all data collection leads to, like, stuff being sold to us, because I think there's a real benefit to it.
Well, I know now within the Department of Social Welfare that there's a tender out there at the moment to monitor mentions of the Department of Social Welfare on social media, across the panel of social media. So this information is going to be collated. People are going to get the job to do it. But for what purpose? And
it's social listening.
Know.
We do know. It's social listening. This has been happening for years. Brands do it every day of the week. I was in New York a few weeks ago and I was interviewing a guy from the marketing side of Samsung, and he was saying, you know, because they had a disaster with a phone of theirs a few years ago, and I said, you know, how do you know that the sentiment towards the brand has not been tarnished? And he said, social listening. So they monitor when someone mentions Samsung on Twitter or Facebook or Instagram, they collate that information. It's not about Jess Kelly says this. It's a person living in Dublin, in Ireland, has this attitude towards it. And that's what I think. Now, obviously, I don't know, and I'm not going to defend any aspect of this at all because I'm not involved in it. But social listening has been happening. And if anything, I would say the government is a bit slow to get to it, because it's a very useful tool. Well,
it's interesting because when you mentioned the government, I know I heard Laura Marlowe talking on the Irish Times World Politics podcast, and she was talking about Macron and how they used to have sort of the Bertie Ahern style press gatherings where he'd just stand there and he'd have the chats and he'd give them whatever, 20 minutes, half an hour, it didn't matter. And Macron had, so Macron's predecessors had something similar. They'd be brought into the government buildings, they'd be sat down, tea, coffee, you know. Macron just said, you know, get out, and he would make his video straight to camera and he'd put out his stuff on social media. And we know our own Taoiseach is very prolific in making these videos. So it has, in many ways, it's an effective tool. Because if it wasn't an effective tool, they wouldn't be, first of all, they wouldn't be using it. And second of all, the messages wouldn't be breaking through. And they do get through. Look
at Obama. Look at Obama's election the first time around, right? That was one of the first presidential elections or significant elections to be run essentially on social media. The whole message of, yes, we can, all of that was a hashtag, and it caught on. And it caught on because it was going into the pockets of the people who hadn't been politically engaged for a long time.
And that was against the DNC. They were for Hillary.
Exactly. So if you chart that, right, and if you look at the different things that have happened since that time, everything from, Brexit, Trump, even our own general elections and referenda and all that kind of stuff, it makes sense to use social media. Now, the only sort of quibble I have is that there's only a certain type of person or only certain types of people on social media. So I would never say that social media is reflective of the world. So if...
Where's Martin's bubble now?
Yeah. No, but like if a government or if a company or if anybody is going to use social listening to gauge attitudes towards them, their brand, whatever, they still have to bear in mind that that's only, again, a small portion of the pie. There's still a whole host of people who, like my mom still uses a phone that has buttons. She doesn't know what Twitter is or Instagram or Facebook, and she doesn't give a shite. Like, she's more than happy to stay as she is. So I don't, look, obviously I don't know the whole side of the social protection thing. I don't know their motives or anything like that, but I, again, just think that there are so many benefits from social listening and from data collection.
I agree with you, there are benefits there. There are benefits for listening. But as you say, you can know everything about a person, but until you meet that person, you can't know that person. I mean, you can gather all the data you like about a person. They can be completely different to your assumptions based on the data you've got.
Yeah, but science is based on fact. Science isn't based, and this is data science. It's not. That's my phone listening to me there now. Look, I swear to God.
You'll need to unlock your phone first.
She's listening. I'm going to turn her off. No, but like the thing is, personality doesn't matter. It's data. They don't care about you, the person. What they want to know is, as a 29-year-old female living in Dublin, what is her attitude towards X, Y, and Z? It doesn't matter. Like, my age may not even matter. It's just the attitudes of a certain group of people. And, I was at the book launch of Professor Luke O'Neill, and he was saying that again, like, he's a brilliant man, but in science, and it doesn't matter whether it's, the human studies or data science or whatever, personality and feelings, they're not facts. And so it doesn't matter if you are the nicest person in the world. If you are saying X, Y, and Z, they're the only three things that matter. You get pulled into one of those pools. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And I don't think it's a harmful thing for us to maybe be a bit more considered when it comes to what we're putting out there on social media. Just to be wary of it. I wouldn't be scared of it, but just be mindful and just think, I always say, when I give talks in school, I always say, like, don't put anything online that you wouldn't want your mother to hear. And it's true, like, that's the way we should be thinking. So I do think...
And Martin's mother follows both of us.
Yeah.
So that's a problem.
These are screwed. But I do think, like, there are... I'm not naive and I'm not an idiot. I know that there are negative sides to this sort of stuff. But I just think the benefits that we can gather from certain data collection and collation it outweighs the negatives, in my opinion. Please don't shout at me online.
Well, I think it's great to get.
Can't deal with the hate.
I think it's great to get the that perspective, because obviously advances in things are actually brought forward. We do tend to, especially we tend to look at it as the more sinister side, the Cambridge Analytica, the Russian bot accounts, the hacking, manipulating. What was one of the biggest headlines that's just come up ad nauseum now is social media is a threat to our democracy.
Yeah, it is.
Yeah,
it totally is, and I'm not going to deny that.
Yeah.
However, that statement is out there and has been out there for a while, but can either of you tell me how many people have ditched their social media profiles as a result? Very few.
And more importantly, actually, some of the main protagonists who say it, for example, our government are one of the biggest spenders on Facebook. Ken Fox produced the data. Yeah. Huge amounts of money being paid to post these ads.
But is it really a threat to our democracy?
It can be. Well, if you look at what happened in the US, I mean, it did impact the democratic process there, and all of the players involved will say that.
It did, but did it impact any more than previous waves? When TV came along, it impacted. When radio came along, it impacted.
I think the difference is, for a telly ad or a newspaper ad, traditionally in politics, you'd have to meet certain criteria, whereas online, you could put a Facebook ad saying anything about anyone and it would go up.
Wasn't it someone made a great point? I can't remember. I think it was Damien Munnelly online the other day. He said it was one of these kind of flippant comments, but he said, "Oh, sure." The problem isn't the anti-vaxxers. The problem is the ease of setting up a legitimate website and saying vaccinationsinformation.ie and being able to make that look legitimate as well. And you can do that if you go through a Windows as people were particularly on Facebook. They were led into these stories, and all of a sudden it looked like a legitimate.
It happened during the AIDS as well. Like there were ads appearing on feeds leading to websites that again look legitimate, and if you were trying to go out of your way to find more information, this looked like a comprehensive information website, and it turns out that it was very heavily backed by one side. Do you know, and it's just cause the whole premise of the website was that it was, you know, unbiased information, and yet if you read the Q&A it was very
I mean that brings another thing into focus is that Repeal Shield was very, very effective at cutting out the white noise. It was very effective at cutting it out. It was very effective at taking care of the trolls, taking care of the people that you didn't want to read. Now, I didn't use it.
Yeah.
But I'm very aware that now, when we move on to when the political cycle moves on, a lot of people are still using Repeal Shield. And it was actually Simon who pointed out the other day, on different subjects that come up, he's not seeing all these nasty comments because it still is the same people blocked. It's the same group of people that are rolling from one issue to the next issue to the next issue.
Yeah, but then you're like, I don't know, I didn't use it either, did I? I don't think anybody.
No, I didn't.
Yeah, so it's really about, you know, it's an individual.
It's a self-policing thing.
It is, and but again, the point, and to come back to the initial point, is that I don't think it should be on us. Like, there's nothing harmful in hearing somebody else's point of view, even if you disagree with it. When it becomes harmful is when the language used is either provocative or offensive, and I think that needs to be monitored by either better monitored by the platforms or have some form of consequence for these people. But I didn't use it, and I don't mute certain things. The only thing I do mute are people who are nasty to me, as in
individually.
Yeah, if they call me names or they say something and you're like, do you know what? I don't need this in my life because I've got real life issues and I've got too much going on, so goodbye.
I completely agree with you on that.
Yeah.
I completely agree. I mean, I follow people who are Trump absolute nutcases. And I can have conversations. I follow hard right people. I can have conversations. It's only if it descends into the name calling.
Well, it's not even the name calling. It's the dangerous line is when we go from actual free speech to incitement or to provocation or to actually it's now again. You make a very interesting point, Jess. You say, who gets to draw that line?
Yeah,
that's where the problem is, because, you know, it's, if you actually look in a workplace and they say, one of the definitions of bullying is very difficult. There's like 6 or 7 different definitions of bullying. And one of them is the more general one is that the person felt bullied. Yes. You know, the bully doesn't,
subjective.
Yeah, but the bully doesn't get to say, well, no, hang on, I was just giving it to him straight.
But people do that on social media. They're always like, oh, are you being a bit sensitive about that? And I'm like, well, sorry, you could, like, you don't know that maybe, like, my dog died and my mum got run over and I've lost my phone and I'm devastated and I open up and I see a tweet that's a bit arsey, but also I can't read your tone.
Yeah.
Like, you don't know what day I've had or what's going on in my life. And so for you to take a swipe that's either really sarky, I don't think sarcasm works online unless you know the person.
Hence why I have no followers.
but I just think you have to be mindful of it. And I think, you know, for years and years and years, and it sounds pathetic and I'm aware of it, but for years, I would have taken it very personally if someone said something mean to me online. To the point where I remember one time it got really bad. I was only 21 and I'd started doing stuff on air and it was really, really bad. And I went into my mum, because I was still living at home at the time. I was like, I'm not doing the on air thing anymore. Like, I'm not doing it. It's just not worth it. And it was on a Sunday and I was just devastated, inconsolable, because some dickhead said something to me online, which doesn't matter now. But I've built up a tougher skin, but I just don't think that any of us need that level of negativity in our pockets. Like, it doesn't matter what you're doing, what work you do. Like, we'll always have people in our workplaces or in our group of friends that will say something that will ruin your day or just put you down a little bit or whatever, that's fine in person. I am not tolerating it online anymore. I just don't. And I don't block people. I just mute them. So then they can shout into their cave and they can think that they're ruining my day, but I have no idea what's going on.
I think...
I just don't need it in my life.
I think we all need strategies to cope with the influx of material that comes through on social media. We all need strategies.
Yeah.
I mean, my strategy is I don't take it out of the house with me. When I'm out, there's nothing on my phone. You either ring me or that's it. I don't even take texts. You must ring me.
Yeah.
I only use social media within my own home.
Yeah.
So once I'm out and about, there's no social media. It doesn't exist in my life. I find that balance works for me.
Yeah.
But everybody needs strategies to deal with, and muting is your strategy.
Yeah.
Crying is Tony's.
Been there, done that.
Usually, no. Mostly, it's putting up these tweets out there, subtweeting that people are being mean to me. You know.
Yeah.
We all. You're right. You have to learn to build a thicker skin too, and should you have to is a different question.
Yeah, but again, like I played the victim, not played the victim, but I kind of was in that mind frame of, like, I shouldn't have to tolerate this. And, I was looking for somebody else to take responsibility. And I was like, now hang on a second, I can take control of this by just muting them.
Yeah.
Like, that's end of conversation.
Yes.
Do you know what I mean? And it's about having the control. And I don't think, again, to go back to the original point, I don't think, what I find offensive may be hilarious to you or may be hilarious to you. But again, you cannot take the context of somebody else's life in that moment in time into consideration. That's not real life on social media. So you just need to find your own way to deal with it, I suppose.
My fear of regulation, and it's always my fear of regulation, is that regulation will be hijacked. Like I saw recently, somebody said, look, you look at any politician's feed in this country or the replies that they're getting, and you will see nastiness. And I'm like, well, you're a politician. You make decisions which force structural violence on people. Why shouldn't you get nasty comments? Your your decisions have real life consequences.
Yeah, but there are presenters of kids' TV in the UK who get nasty comments because they exist and because they breathe. And I think we just need to mature as a society and being able to articulate, if you don't agree with a politician, and that's totally fine. And, there's been many times when I've wanted to tweet things, but obviously because of my job I can't. But I just think if you can't articulate yourself without calling someone the C word or a nasty name or swearing in a sentence
or threatening,
you've lost the argument. And I just think you are completely, if you want to disagree with me in terms of something I've said about technology or even the stuff that I've said today about data, whatever, fine, have a conversation. I will have a conversation back. But don't call me names or get nasty. Because
can we not just use the Will Ferrell technique of saying with all due respect and then saying something nasty?
Exactly, with all due respect, you're an asshole. Thanks.
But just going back to the original thing, that the idea around Facebook, Twitter, and all these guys. We obviously know, as you said, they are in it for money, obviously, and some of them are insanely good at it. Mm-hmm. Some are insanely good at it. Like the value that they can take out of this data is hugely successful. That you got to admire that in a way. But the algorithms themselves, they're protected very closely. We know Google is very secretive about it, how it's done. Some of the best minds in the world are hired to keep these things evolving and making sure that they're doing that. The awareness of that, I think, needs to be raised, that people understand that the reason you are getting the feed that you're getting is because the system knows you. Like, I can literally say, we won't now at the moment, but if I called on Google now to dim the lights, he'll do it.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean?
I think, so that's part of my job, and why my job exists is to try and inform people about all these things and to not do it in a, don't use them, use us instead. It's just a purely informative role. And I don't think people are aware of all of the different things that are running in the background. And some of the reactions when Cambridge Analytica happened were very eye-opening to me, because people didn't realise that their movements were being tracked online. They didn't realise, again, they couldn't understand why, if they Google, a hotel to stay in Kildare, that suddenly all of their ads were about hotels in Kildare. People weren't aware of that. And I think we still have a long way to go in terms of bringing everybody up, because the way I look at it at the moment is kind of like a chart. So you've got like a high column of people who don't really know / don't really care. You have a mid-range column of people who know and care and are aware and they're happy with that. And then you have a teeny tiny portion at the end of people who know and they're across it and they're very confident. And I think what we need to do is try and bring all three tiers up so that they're level with each other.
Yeah.
But we have a long way to go. And I think the tech companies now, because they're scared, they are trying to be more transparent. And I think the onus is on us as the users, to a certain extent, to find out what a company requires, what information they require, what information they store, how do I delete it, where is it, like all of this stuff. The onus is on us as a user to figure that out. I mean, you wouldn't get into a car without figuring out where the ignition is and where the gear stick is and all that kind of stuff. The onus is on you. The internet is a tool. You need to know how to use it properly. And that's a very black and white view of it. But that's what I feel. Having spoken to so many people over the last number of years about it, I do think we have to own the fact that we need to learn more.
And where do you think that should start? Do you think that should start very early?
Yeah. Like I do think we need to build in more technology into the curriculum. I don't think it's just, how to code, because coding is grand. But, and I always use this example on air, but like I have a 3-year-old niece and I teach her to say please and thank you. And I teach her how to tie her shoelaces, but nobody's teaching her how to behave online. Because she's already, like, she goes on YouTube and watches Peppa Pig. She uses Netflix. And it's not that, she's one of those kids that's just given a tablet and that's it. She has tablet time once a week and she loves it. But she's online. And I think we need to kind of, from 5, like once they're in primary school, you need to tell them how to be smart. Like you teach them how to be street smart, don't talk to strangers, all that kind of stuff. Nobody's really doing it on for the online side of things.
Well, I know. I mean, having 2 kids myself, I know they're really quite savvy about social media. They are quite savvy about social media. Probably more savvy than older people are about social media.
They know how to use it in terms of physically turning it on, taking a selfie, deleting something. Like they know how to use it, but they don't know how to behave with it. So they don't know if someone says, if I upload a picture now and someone says, you look fat, I don't know how to respond to that, because is this a stranger or is this someone I know? Are they joking? Are they being serious? How am I supposed to feel about that? Is that abuse? Is it just there are so many different, strands that come out of a single comment online. And particularly for teenagers who already have so much to contend with in the world. Like I worry about the whole thing of body image and mental health, and one comment can ruin your day. And I say that as an adult who has had one comment ruin their day. And I just think we need to try and build up not just resilience, but online cop on in our kids, so that they know if someone is taking the piss, or they know if someone's being nasty, or they know if they are being groomed in some way, shape or form.
Yes.
Because that's a big issue. People can pose as anyone they want to be online, and then suddenly you're engaged in this big conversation and it can go anywhere, and it's very, very dangerous. But we need, parents don't want to scare their kids by having these conversations, but I think we also need to let them know that it's out there, because it is.
I do. I agree. And I know that, my youngest daughter, they get quite a lot of talk about social media within school. And I like to hear it, that, they're savvy enough to know you don't put up pictures of yourself that are in any way revealing. You don't talk to people you don't know, I think is the basic for the kids.
But they still do it though, because what they is like they want to up their follower numbers, and so what they do is they'll talk to anyone, they'll accept a follower request from anyone, and I can see so easily how it spirals, and I don't think it's fair to blame the kids.
It's not. No,
it's not fair.
They're just children.
Yeah.
And not like, and it happens. Like, I'm sorry, but we laugh about it. But half of the game, even that plays online, is people looking. Hey, you got to get them numbers. You got to get them numbers.
My first introduction to Facebook was quite a long time ago. I met a woman that I had known quite a long time, and she was under her stairs on the old type computer. I go, what are you doing? She said, I'm on Facebook. I go, what's Facebook? And she tried to explain to me, said, no, you're going to have to tell me what it's about. She goes, I have 2,000 friends on Facebook. And I go, who has 2,000 friends? Who has 2,000 friends?
We don't even have 2 friends, mate.
There was that drive for popularity. Yeah. Now I don't know, has it changed?
It has, because the thing is, it used to be a numbers game, particularly on Facebook. It was like, how many friends can you have? But the algorithm kicked in, and you were seeing all these posts, because if you followed, like I remember years ago, I followed a minor celebrity because I met them once, and by met them I mean I walked by them in a corridor, so I added them on Facebook because that was the done thing.
Yeah.
I didn't care about their life, didn't care about their dog or anything like that, and yet their posts were appearing above my friends and family because they were getting more likes and more comments because they were a mini celebrity. And so I think that the notion of just adding people for the sake of it, it has died down. And I think, you know, I have deleted Facebook. I've done a cull of Facebook friends. If I haven't spoken to you in the last 5 years, you're not on my Facebook list. And it's not because I'm being a dickhead. It's just because
I don't know you.
You don't need to know about my life. And like, if you wouldn't come up to me and say, oh, hey, how's it going in real life? Don't be my Facebook friend.
But different platforms give different things. Like you've said, Facebook is an echo chamber, and I find it the ultimate echo chamber because there's no outside influence on Facebook. You follow a group of friends, and you're not hearing voices outside of that group.
No, but that was the initial point. But then Facebook changed the game when they started bringing news outlets in and ads in and sponsored posts in. So, if you were to scrape Facebook back to what it was years ago, it's actually a gorgeous idea. You can talk to your friends and you can catch up with them online. You can see where they had their 21st birthday and their 30th birthday and all that stuff in a really nice, neat, very clean feed. That's a brilliant idea. Like, my sister lives in the UK. I loved being able just to see what she was up to and snoop and tell my mom when she was in the pub and all that kind of stuff. I love that idea. But then it became, outside influences came in, but it wasn't outside influences that we necessarily welcomed in. We just accepted because we still wanted to be able to talk to our friends and all the rest. And then it got to the stage where I would do, like, you know when you have a wheelie mouse? If you do 3 scrolls of the mouse. Yeah. And if by 3 scrolls of the mouse you haven't seen a post of someone that you know or love, why are you on there? If it's all just, you know, Channel 4 and Now This, which again are brands that I like and I interact with and all the rest. It's not, like, that's not what I wanted from Facebook. So I think Facebook kind of went down, it veered off a little bit. Like, my favourite platform now is Instagram. Which again is a Facebook product.
And everybody tells me Instagram is basically is a lovely place to go, and it just you know, I think I can barely work my Twitter. People think I am usually shouting into the void. I know, I think it's a conversation. Twitter is a conversation you have with yourself and still lose. Yeah. Right. So
nobody wins.
No, nobody wins. But I suppose on the broader sense, yes, I think people have to raise awareness that, look, the reason you're getting that type of news is because this is what you've input to the system, so you're getting it fed back to you. The algorithm does actually know you, whether you think, Martin, it does or doesn't, it does, because facts are facts when it comes to these are the things that you've searched for.
If you're looking at Facebook and you're thinking, God, that's a really awful article. Then that's a really, oh God, how did this thing? You got to look back at yourself and say, am I that kind of person?
It's the same argument we have all the time with people who say, they'll tell you, look, I wasn't being mean, I was just saying something, and you're going, yeah, look at who likes your tweets, mate. Yeah. You know, if it's a fella who says ethno-nationalist in his bio, you're not exactly attracting people. Jess, I know we've taken up enough of your time, but so ultimately, do you think we need proper legislation?
Yeah, absolutely. Now, I don't know, and you know, it's very easy for me to say that sitting here and not having to be involved in creating it, but I do think the time has come for it. I think, you know, how many more years can we sit here and let this stuff go on? Because, like, you may remember a few years ago, there was a spout of very young people dying by suicide as a result of cyberbullying. And that's something that we all lived through. And obviously, thankfully, that's not going to happen every day of the week. But we can't have these debates and demand legislation when that happens and then forget about it until the next time it happens. I don't think that's good enough. And I think, you know, the American democratic process was interfered with. Our young people, and not just young people are very, exposed when it comes to behaviours online, because not only can you get bullied or be influenced, like the whole influencer culture, another word for influence is manipulate. And there's a whole generation of people who are being manipulated to buy certain products. And you talked about that in terms of the data collection. I'd be more fearful of the influencers than I would be of, you know, Big Brother or anything like that, because you end up buying pure shite because somebody looks like they're having a great time because they're wearing a green dress. I'm not into that. And I just think we need regulation, legislation, and to protect each other. Like, I know that sounds very Oprah Winfrey of me, but whatever. I do. That's what I genuinely believe, and I don't envy the government for having to take this on. But I do think if you look at what they did in terms of a European movement, in terms of the roaming charges, that was a big issue, and it was a pain in the face, and people lost money because of it. But eventually they've managed to quash roaming charges for the most part. I do think we need a European-wide movement to legislate or just regulate in some way, shape or form. I think we need to stop accepting the fact that the different social media companies can build their own community standards. Yeah. That's my big bugbear.
That's like, I mean, in every financial institution, they can have corporate social responsibility, but they also have a financial regulator.
Exactly.
I was just going to say the same, Tony. It seems like a mammoth task.
Yeah, and like, as I said, I don't envy them, but it needs to be done.
For better or worse, there is some regulations on banking. You know, as influencers,
there's a lot of regulation on banking. It's just we don't know how effective it could be sometimes. But
influencers social media now are at the same level as banks for influencers. They have as much impact on society as banks do. We can do with banks. Again, it's not terribly effective, or it's not as effective as we'd like to see it. But it can be done. Yeah.
The ASAI is doing a lot to try and regulate the influencer side of things. But again, I just fear, like, looking at the presidential election now with all these celebrity candidates, and you're like, I don't want to go down this route. This is not what I want to be like living in and growing up in. I don't want that side of things, and I just think
you have 6 years before you can run.
I'm telling you, I have it in the diary. I'll launch my campaign on the show.
Martin could have run twice, you know.
No, I'm telling you, like, I just think it doesn't appeal to me. That notion that Ireland does not appeal to me, and I don't know.
So would you think switch off every now and again?
Yeah, I do. Yeah. Like, I think
digital detox is good.
Not even a digital detox. I think it's just pressing pause. And I press pause on everything. Like, I'm quite, I don't know, it sounds ridiculous for somebody who works in radio, but I'm quite shy. I don't really like talking to people. I kind of like just sitting on my own for a little while and pressing pause and pressing reset, because I just think everything is too overwhelming at the moment, and the expectations that we all have set for ourselves and all the rest is just super overwhelming. So I do like to press pause, and I don't necessarily do a digital detox as in like a week of no phone or no nothing, but I turn my phone off for an hour a day, which is only small, but I still do it. And I don't have the same compulsion to get back to people when they tweet me and all that stuff. That side of things has kind of the foot's off the gas in that regard. And I think we all need to stop taking ourselves so seriously.
I couldn't agree more with you. I couldn't agree more with you. People take themselves way too seriously.
Why is he looking at me when he said that?
Thanks very much for coming in and having a chat with us. That was a really interesting chat. I agree. People should turn off everything except this episode of EchoChamber's podcast. Please listen. Please give us a review. And if you feel like it, throw a few bob into the Patreon so that we can do brilliant interviews like this with Jess. Thank you.
Thanks, folks. Thanks for listening. See you all soon. Bye-bye.